But speaking of the PS5 Pro, there are some renders online of what it may look like. And if you see, the PlayStation recently did a 30-year anniversary graphic. And on the graphic, in one of the backgrounds, it's real faint, but they have these icons that show like the PS4 and the DualSense and all these icons related to PlayStation. There's one icon that looks suspiciously like a lot of these renders of the PS5 Pro. So that might actually, what you're seeing on screen right now, may actually be what it looks like. And we are expecting an announcement, possibly. There's been a leak saying that it will be announced September 10th or 11th. So that's what the leak says. However, it could also be during the state of play. There have been leaks that there's going to be a state of play sometime this month for a long time. The same leak says that there should be a state of play the 19th or the 20th. And if we don't get it, then there may be an announcement at the Tokyo Game Show. So at some point in the near future, it's highly expected that we're going to be seeing the PS5 Pro, especially because at Gamescom, certain developers were saying that they were actually delaying their games because they were anticipating the PS5 Pro, and so they were trying to get it ready for that. Not a lot of developers. I think they're mostly smaller ones, but I do remember it being mentioned that at least one developer said, we had planned on releasing the game at this point, but right now we're trying to get it ready for stronger platforms. So a lot of people are speculating that would be the PS5 Pro. So it does seem like it's going to be coming soon. Now, we don't have any clear specs on it, obviously, because it hasn't been announced. So we don't know 100% what it's going to be doing. Estimates are saying that it should be playing a native 4K at 60 FPS. So a lot of 4K right now is upscaled that it's doing, and especially if the PlayStation 5 is going for 60 FPS. But this one should, in theory, be native 4K, 60 FPS, increase the CPU by 10%, and the GPU should be 45% faster. We, again, do not have a price point, but it is currently estimated that it will probably be around $650 US, which the PlayStation should be around $500 US. They probably will not decrease the price of that, as we just saw the price of the PS5 actually increased in Japan. So the price of the PS5 is probably not going to go down. But yeah, this is a premium product, so $650, which on a personal level, I will not be getting a PS5 Pro. I already have a PS5. I don't need a PS5 Pro. Yeah, it would be a little bit nicer, maybe a little bit faster and native 4K, but you know what? The PS5 gets me by just fine. If I didn't have a PlayStation yet for whatever reason, or my PlayStation broke and could not be repaired for whatever reason, yeah, I might think about getting a PS5 Pro. But as long as I have a PS5, paying $650 for not a huge upgrade, not really worth the value to me. But what do you guys think? I have heard rumors that it's going to go the way of the current iteration of the PS5, where it has a detachable hard drive. I suppose you could probably even say that since the hard drive is not the critical component, that you might be using the same hard drive as the current iteration of the PS5. But yeah, people are speculating it should have a detachable hard drive. So if you want one, you can get one. If you don't want one, you don't have to get one. And just to make a note on that, I believe the current hard drive is $50. So if you get like the current PlayStation, it's like $500. And if you want the version with the attachment, it's $50. Or you can pay $50 later, and it's modular, which is actually cool. But that's just me.
I want to talk about the hardware because I love hardware and hardware's fun. The hardware for the PS5 Pro, the current PS5, has an AMD Zen 2 custom CPU. Again, those are made here in Taiwan. My theory is, based on what Adam said, 10% better, is they're going to go with a low end AMD Zen 4. So the big difference between a Zen 2 and a Zen 4 is, right, Zen 4 uses DDR5. It's basically everything is faster. Memory is faster. CPU is faster, of course. The CPU and the RAM and the GPU are all integrated much better. I don't think they're going to get like what Adam, Antoine, no, not Intel, he went with the wrong team. I'm kidding. But no, what Adam and I have is current is Zen 3, Zen 4 is the new DDR5 architecture. So I think that's where they're going to go. They can't go high end just because there's so many limited quantities for that. And a lot of the high end Zen 4 chips are going into the handhelds. Again, PS5 is using 2 generations ago of the GPU, right? Again, but a custom GPU made specifically for games, so it does run better than the all-purpose GPU that Adam, Antoine, and I have in our computers, right, which does a lot of everything. The custom GPUs are made specifically for rendering graphics. So I think PS5 Pro, yes, it's gonna look wonderful. I think it's gonna be 32 gigabytes of RAM inside. Again, 16 is low for 4K at the moment. I remember I played an old Batman Arkham Knight, and at 4K, 30 frames per second, and then it was using 11 gigabytes of RAM, just Batman the game. So you can imagine like a nice modern 4K game. I was looking at that game, Shine, Keanu Reeves gunfighting combat with a lady. I think that's going to look beautiful, but that's going to be like a 15, 16 gigabytes of RAM on its own when it launches. Increase in price makes sense because the hardware is expensive, because there are limited quantities. A lot of the factories that TSMC are setting up in Adam and mine's hometown here in Taiwan, it won't break ground until next year, right? And when they break ground, it's still going to be, they still have to ramp up production, that sort of stuff. There's one in Japan, there's one in Germany. So all this stuff is just getting built. It still makes me question whether there's going to be a PS6 in the future, just because the hardware costs are just going to go up and up. And at some point, you're going to go into a price point where the average person is like, yeah, $1,000, I'm just going to go on my PC, or I'm just going to buy a handheld for $600-700, or and then I'll just dock it and plug it into my TV. Like, why would you pay $650 for that? And I remember Antoine talking about the Xbox story at some point, and he said was like the leak at that point was like Microsoft was just be like, yep, we're just gonna do live streaming with whatever the hell the Xbox live streaming thing is called. I can't remember. So it's, yeah, maybe this ties into Concord as well. I think PlayStation has to be careful with where they spend their resources going forward.